Ladies and gentlemen, we had ground rules that we weren't going to interrupt the conversations of each debater. However, after after after
Hello.
okay, 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 okay. Um, so it is. Can we now hear the candidates of the representative of the People's Democratic Party, Onoja?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ilemona Onoja, and I have the unique and distinct privilege of standing before you in representation of a man who not only has the responsibility and the experience of the past, but has the vision for the future. I stand here with with an understanding of the sense of the times. And over the course of the evening, I will answer my questions in 3 stages. Our stages will talk about where we used to be, where we are, and where we must go. Where were we? We're in a country where in 1999, PDP inherited from the military, a military that includes the present President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. We were poor, we're a pariah nation, we were excluded from the Committee of States, we had a broken down economy, we had failing education, we had failing infrastructure. But in the year 1999, GDP growth in our country, the first 6 months of PDP participation in government, 0.58%. 0.58% for 1999. The year 2000, 5.0%. The year 2001, 5.68%. The year 2002, 15.3%. The year 2003, 7.9%. The year 2004, 9.6%. I am standing on record of an ability to grow, to speak to you today to ask you that we must vote for growth. I am standing on a record of a person who is the only candidate who has been involved in wealth creation, wealth generation, job creation at the national level to ask that we must learn from the past to vote for the future. I am standing in front of you to say that I campaign for a candidate who has been campaigned for by the other 2 candidates. Bola Ahmed Tinubu campaigned for Atiku Abubakar in 2007. Mr. Peter Obi campaigned for Atiku Abubakar in 2019. And they were unanimous at all times in their conclusion that this is a man who has a plan to move this country forward. I am standing before you to answer the question that my friend and brother asked. Will you leave your country in the hands of Atiku Abubakar? I will not answer that question for you. I will let his records answer that question for you. His records show an ability to create whole institutions out of nothing. His records show an ability to pull people from across the country together to unite them behind a common goal. His records show an ability to point the way and chart the future. I will end my introduction by asking this question. What is the Nigerian dream? The Nigerian dream must be a dream where we leave to our country, our countrymen, our children, and the children after them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I didn't have 5 minutes. I didn't have 5 minutes.
You had 5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
It was 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes. And please, let's maintain the rules, as we've said before. The ground rules, you don't interrupt. If you are asked questions, you can if you ask questions, you can answer, but if you're not, please do not interrupt. Thank you very much. So we are going back to, we'll start with Onoja this time around. Okay. And we'll start the conversation with the economy of Nigeria. Um, could you please, in 2 minutes, 2 minutes, try 2 minutes, tell us, give us a holistic view of, or a glimpse into the holistic view of what your candidate's economic plan for Nigeria is. Thank you. Your time starts now.
Sorry, I'm trying to start my time. What is the our approach to growing economy is something that we have demonstrated in the past. There's too much government in the Nigerian economy. The Nigerian economy stagnates over a course of time because you have way too much regulation and you have not enough private sector participation. And so you have, for instance, a situation where government has taken up all the borrowing and has crowded out the private sector in such a manner that they cannot access capital. It is a very simple proposition that we take. Get government out of business. Government has absolutely no business in business. Leave business to the private sector participants. It is only in liberalizing the economy that you're going to be able to do a number of things. One, you're going to be able to cut government waste. Two, you're going to be able to allow private sector capital and private sector creativity and ingenuity create jobs. This is the sort of thing that, as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Chairman of the National Economic Council between the years 1999 and 2007, the sort of experience that none of the other candidates are able to point to, that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was able to lead the Nigerian economy into growth that has been the highest in our nation's history, job creation that has been the highest in our nation's history, and wealth generation that has been the highest in our nation's history. Get government out of business and then allow the businessmen, allow the private sector players who understand the way to grow wealth and create jobs, take the lead so that you run a private sector-led, market-driven economy rather than the command and control system that we see under the APC.
Thank you very much. The same question for the Labour Party candidates.
Thank you. All economies that have developed in the last 100 years have adopted one model: feeding yourselves. How can it be that a country of over 220 million people, we consume what we do not produce, and we produce what we do not consume? The only way to make Nigeria move forward and grow our economy is by us having the capacity to feed ourselves. When we were all growing up, our mothers had gardens. We hardly bought plantain. We hardly bought oranges. We had these trees in our houses. But what do we see today? A bulk of these things are imported. How can we grow an economy? By importing the food that we need. The only strategy that Peter Obi intends to implement is the strategy that China used, the same strategy that India used. From 2006 to 2016, India brought out over 100 million people out of poverty by one model: being able to feed themselves. Our plan is to have a rigorous agrarian revolution where Nigerians grow the food Nigerians eat. Are you not ashamed that as beautiful as our country is, we import fish from Indonesia? Are you not ashamed that we import even groundnut oil from Ghana? Are you not ashamed that even the cocoa that we have available sometimes, we import it from other West African countries? The plan is to grow our economy by our ability to feed ourselves. If, for example, every region or every state had agricultural processing factories, we have the best and the sweetest plantain in Benin. Why don't we have a pineapple processing factory in Benin?
Time up.
Thank you.
The same question. How can it be?
It's okay.
Can the APC candidates?
All right. Thank you very much. As regards the economy, one thing that is very important that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made clear is national infrastructural campaign. We know that there's no economy that can develop without adequate infrastructure. And of course, from the success of this present administration, yes, we identify out of the 35,000 kilometers of roads, federal government roads we have in Nigeria, we identified 13,000 roads. And out of these 13,000 roads, at least 10,000 is either work has started, work is ongoing, or work is completed across the 6 geopolitical zones. These are bedrock for development. 2 weeks ago, the President of America, Joe Biden, talked about economic development by infrastructure. So we will do what we call infrastructural development and asset mapping. Now, the next thing we will do also is what we call the welfare economy. We understand that the people come first when it comes to the economy of the nation. So Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shown this model even in Lagos State, whereby we have a high number of employed people in the government institution. So this also will be replicated. And of course, import substitution. You know, sometimes it baffles me when I see presidential candidates, when they don't talk about fact. Some things that this present administration, we've already moved ahead. President Muhammadu Buhari has really achieved a lot when it comes to the agricultural sector. Now we have a lot of millers across the nation. We are talking about eating what we produce. Now we are eating, and don't forget, we also have the AFTA agreement, which Nigeria was also partner to. So we need to, and lastly, let me conclude. What Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will do is what? He will also look at the non-oil sector and of course the agri sector, which I've mentioned earlier. He has shown it when he was in Lagos, and he has shown that he can develop, of course, from the subsidy. He's going to remove subsidy. He's going to have enough money for this infrastructural development. And I can also tell you, you might be asking the question, where will this money come from? I can tell you that a man who has the vision for Atlantic City, a man who had the vision for the Fourth Mainland Bridge, he knows where the money is and he will bring it out. Thank you.
I'd like to quickly ask, over the course of you didn't mention that when you were laying the ground rules. Do we have rights of rebuttal? What are the rules around the rights of rebuttal?
You would ask.
Okay. Can I quickly ask a question in follow-up to his submissions then?
Go ahead.
It is easy to stand in front of a crowd of people and speak about agricultural revolutions and infrastructural development that people hear but they don't necessarily see. And so I'll ask the question, how come you stand in front of us and you speak about President Muhammadu Buhari's successes in the agricultural sector while we are experiencing the highest food prices in the course of most of our lives? In 2015, I'm asking a question. In 2015...
No interruptions, please.
In 2015, the price of an average bag of rice was 8,000 naira. The price of a bag of rice now is 40,000 naira. Rice is the most consumed staple in the country. How, therefore, do you stand in front of us and speak about an agricultural revolution that we hear about but do not see?
Excuse me. Hello. Please, can we, APC, show leadership. You're in power.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm sure we are all living in this planet Earth. And as we can see, even IMF gave some projection. The war in Ukraine, Nigeria is not an exception to it. The global economy, of course, is affected. Food prices in the UK are skyrocketed. We all have data and facts. So we cannot sit down here in Nigeria. Like I said, but let me make one thing clear. I have not come here this evening with the most eloquent of voice, but I can tell you, it's a journey. We are like the proverbial Israelites.
Please.
It's a journey. I haven't said we are there yet. It's a journey. We are like the proverbial Israelites. You can't say you are not used to manna. Take us back to Egypt. We will never go back to Egypt because we've been told that the Egypt you see today, we will never see them no more in Hasoro. Thank you.
Please, let's not forget the ground rules. Let's not forget the ground rules. So the second question on economy, we'll have 3 questions on economy. We have 2 questions on job creation. We have 5 questions on security, because insecurity is killing all of us. And then we'll have 3 questions in education and 4 questions in healthcare. So back to economy. I would like to ask the Labour Party candidate, how would you, energy is a very important aspect of our lives, and it is also one of the very cardinal sectors that would improve our economy. How would you ensure that all Nigerians have access to clean and affordable energy if you are elected president?
Thank you. Our presidential candidate, Peter Obi, has visited several countries where they moved electricity distribution, production and transmission in such an astronomical way than we have done. It's a shame that with all the gas we produce, it's a shame that the only hydropower plant that we still have that's effective and efficient, the Kainji Dam, was built almost 60 years ago. And we have borrowed, and we have borrowed, and all those monies have gone into thin air. What do we plan to do? We really have no problems with the people of Nigeria. The problem squarely is leadership. We have DISCOs, we have GENCOs. How do we transmit? That is where a major problem is. While we intend to increase our generation, while we intend to increase the distribution, there must be primary focus in transmission. And that is what Peter Obi is about. There's a current Nigerian Siemens deal of about $3.2 billion that has been on for ages. Our number one priority is to see that that deal is implemented and power is generated for the Nigerian people. When power is generated, there will be no problems of unemployment, because Nigerians are industrious people. Nigerians are hardworking people. All that we really require are the basics to improve our lives and move forward. And so electricity for us is very vital. And Peter, in his manifesto, has given us laid down, implementable platform on how he intends to handle electricity. I don't think it's rocket science. He has promised to hit the ground running, and the first thing will be to ensure that the Nigerian Siemens deal is implemented. Thank you.
If I may ask a further question. The question was about clean and affordable energy. So I was expecting to hear a plan for solar farms.
Are you asking a question or giving a contribution?
I'm asking you.
No, you asked me what our plan is for clean energy.
So what is your plan for clean? That's actually the question. What is your plan for clean and affordable energy?
Well, it depends on how we define clean and affordable energy. I'm an engineer, so I should know better. Most of us can see today that Nigerians are moving away from the regular hydroelectricity. Most of us are having solar panels in our houses now. There are many countries, the DRC, for example, are taking advantage of wind energy to create electricity. So the focus is hydroelectricity, solar electricity, and wind energy. If we can put a little bit of all of this, where Nigerians can even generate power themselves, use some of it and sell to the national grid, there'll be prosperity across the nation, and the nation will move forward. Thank you.
PDP.
The plan for improving Nigeria's power situation is very simple. It's very straightforward.
And affordable energy.
Nigeria stopped smack in the middle of implementing an unbundling of our power sector. And so we had achieved the unbundling of power generation, we had achieved the unbundling of power distribution. But because we did not achieve the unbundling of power transmission, about 70 to 80% of all power that is generated in this country on a daily basis wastes in the process of transmission. Now, the very simple approach that the PDP intends to employ is to unbundle power transmission. How? By, first of all, breaking it up. We have one unwieldy national grid that caters to the entire country. And so if light fails, if your power transmission fails in Lagos, it fails in Kano. It ought not to be so. So the proposition is to break it into several regional grids so that you have a grid for the northeast, a grid for the northwest, and so on and so forth. Then you power the grid by generating power in those areas subject to the available resources in each zone. Say, for instance, in the northwest, we have large amounts of sunlight and wind, and so you prioritize solar and wind energy in the northwest. In the south-south, for instance, you have a preponderance of gas, and so on and so forth, and so you power primarily by using gas. Now, you will say clean energy, but the question is, what can my people afford? In Europe now, the people who have sung to us for so many years about clean energy, we are seeing people revert to coal to manage their short-term energy needs. And our advocate will do what we have to do to get to where we have to go to. So if you have coal available to you in the southeast, go ahead, use coal, power your people, achieve your economic revolution, and then when your people can afford clean energy, you afford it. You don't afford something before you can.
Can I just ask him a question? He mentioned about distribution and transmission. Under whose government was this agreement or was this contract signed? And what are the major terms in the distribution? Let me answer the question for you.
If he asks me a question, will he not allow me to answer?
Okay, go ahead. I just have a follow-up.
And this is the reason why you should elect Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. It was under the Obasanjo administration, where Alhaji Atiku Abubakar served as Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Chairman of the National Economic Forum Council, that we started the process of unbundling power from, unbundling the entire power sector. So we had done a phased approach, and phases 1 and 2 had been achieved. Phase 3, which is the unbundling of the transmission grid, is what we are proposing to achieve. And it's a very simple thing. Give it to the people who started it, who know how to do it, so that they can complete it.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you wouldn't want to deceive us with fact that doesn't exist. Yes, it was under the PDP government, but what was the terms of the contract? Don't forget, what was the reason this present administration had to go and sign with Siemens? Because if we terminate, you know what they did? You sign a contract as a government official to make Nigeria at the, how do I call it? To make the contract detrimental to Nigeria. That's why we had this contract with Siemens, just to make sure to help the discos. So let's get our fact right. That contract the PDP administration gave out is criminality, and we would never reward that. Get your information. Now, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let me clear one thing. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar was only the chairman of economic management team for 3 years, from 1999 to 2002. 2003, it was the build-up to election, and he was already having friction with Obasanjo. And when they were re-elected, he was never, everything he was doing, he had to go and report to Baba Yabo because he was never trusted. Hold on, sir. In that same 2004, the National Assembly removed Alhaji Atiku Abubakar from the chairman of privatization committee. No, let's get the fact right. He was removed from the chairman of privatization committee. So I don't see why we should go back to such life. Thank you very much.
So to your question, to your question.
Can I add, please?
Hold on,
it will be unfair to have them the latitude of how many minutes to answer questions back and forth. So my suggestion is this.
Okay.
If there are rebuttals, it should be 1 minute. Respond in 1 minute and we keep it moving. We're not going to sleep here because of PDAPC. That's not the plan.
Okay. Your question
the question is,
how do you...
The question is...
No.
The question is... Hold on.
You want to allow him to bully you?
No,
You are the
I'm not
moderator.
bullying. I'm not bullying.
He said...
It's a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing. Hold on.
Onaja, hold your thoughts. Hold your thoughts, please.
If the
Hold your
APC
thoughts, please.
representative...
Hold your thoughts, please. Hold your thoughts. Let him answer question.
But that is the point.
No.
If he took the time for the answer to the
Let-
question
let's-
and then rigmarolled in government. Hold on. But there is a valid point there. If he wasted.
Onaja, let him answer his question. Then if you still have a right of rebuttal to his question.
Okay.
At all, if at all, you'll be given that right, but because you've had a back and forth, I'm going to deny you that right, maybe on the other segments. Thank you. So, shoot.
Thank you very much. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a very pragmatic
2
man.
minutes.
You know, he said something when he was addressing the Economic Summit Group in Lagos. What he said is, I want to compete. And like I said, please, presidential candidates should get their fact right before they campaign. See, we have the Ajaokuta, and I would love you to be my landlord because I would love to invest in your state, Onoja. We have the Ajaokuta Kaduna Kano gas pipeline. That same gas pipeline will lead to Morocco and it will lead to Spain. This present administration have started it. We are talking about clean energy. And remember, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, I want to compete. And I would also agree with my brother that said there are some cities in Europe who still uses coal. And that was what brought what Asiwaju said in Kaduna, in Arewa House, that how will you tell a rat not to eat a poisoned Holy Communion? The West gives us some rules, some charter to sign that doesn't work with us. And it's telling them, I want to compete. I want to lay gas pipeline from Nigeria. I want to supply Europe while they are having issue with Russia. So it's so simple. This administration have started, and Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu we continue on that, and of course, we will expand to those to the wind. And don't forget, let me put northern governors. They came together, and I think they tell themselves that they are building at least 1,000 units of solar-powered generators. So, and the federal government gave them counterpart funding. All these things, this administration have started well. It is for us just to build on the clean energy. Thank you very much.
Do we have a right of rebuttal?
No, not in this, because we're going to be having back and forth, and it's not going to help the conversation. So maybe later in your closing remarks, you can rebut whatever he says. I'm going to the Labour Party candidate. Hello. One. I'm going to the Labour Party candidates, and I would like to ask, in terms of boosting our economy, what is your party's plan in terms of tourism? Tourism has become one of the major ways developing countries or developed countries are boosting their economies and increasing their GDPs, and also attracting foreign direct investments into the country. What is your party's plan in terms of improving tourism in Nigeria?
Thank you. Sadly, Nigeria is a country that is orchestrated to administrate and not to produce. So from our inception, there was no deliberate plan to improve or to build tourism in Nigeria. And that is why, unlike our neighbors in Ghana and other African countries, especially Tanzania, a bulk of their GDP is tourism based. But I don't think we even have a clear-cut idea of how much tourism we do ourselves as Nigerians in Nigeria, let alone asking foreigners to come. But however, we have a plan for tourism. When the country is safe, when the children are educated, when the country is productive, you would attract foreigners. What would the foreigners come to do under the guise of tourism? How have we factored this into our manifesto? When you have an educated population that can understand that an economy grows when there's a multiplicity or a plurality of businesses in that economy, that attracts tourists. How can we grow our tourism when we're unable to solve our security challenge? If I was not a Nigerian, I won't come to Nigeria for tourism, because when I hear that children are being stolen from school, what will be the benefits coming to Nigeria? So what we're doing, first of all, secure the country, that will help tourism. Educate the people, that will help tourism. Build infrastructure, That would help tourism. Until we put these three key factors into place, nobody will come to Nigeria to visit. Thank you.
I was expecting you to use your full 2 minutes judiciously, but yeah.
Straight to
it's
the
all
point.
right. That's good. PDP?
To improve Nigeria's tourism, you must first of all do a number of things. One, you must secure the country. Our country has never been this unsafe. Between 2015 and 2023, we have gotten to a point where we now have our military, the body